Welcome everyone on today's webinar. We'll speak and we will enable you to discover how the unified project management look like with the Nextedy apps for Polarion. My name is Jiří Walek. I'm a principal consultant and co-founder of Nextedy. A few words about Nextedy before we start. Nextedy is an official Siemens technical partner. We are on the market since 2018. We have customers across many different industries from electronics such as Samsung or LG, medical, Johnson & Johnson, Medtronic, aerospace, Rolls-Royce, automotive, Scania, Hyundai, transportation, Swiss Railways, Deutsche Bahn. We are focused on the regulated industries, on enterprise clients, and today our focus is a project management. We promise that we'll follow real life case. We have been helping big clients to migrate from, in this case, from Jira and Big Picture into Polarion. And few of their main requirements from the high level point of view were related to the first resource planning, due to the fact that the projects were often suffering from resource imbalances. The team members have been overloaded, and the impact was that the projects have been delayed, the satisfaction was impacted, as well as productivity. And the second main requirement for them was really to face the situation that there were misalignments in timelines and dependencies, which could stall projects, especially when the tasks were depending on other teams. In this case, they had the platform or shared projects that have been contributing to the real customer projects, where the dependencies have been really critical to be, let's say, considered and processed well. And also the dependencies should have been automatically updated and propagated across the full, let's say, portfolio of the projects. And for that case, we were helping, and we have a solution that can be easily replicated for any other client on the world, which is based on, first, Polarion being still the single source of truth. So we don't, let's say, introduce any new database, any new data platform. Everything is in Polarion, so this eliminates any need for data synchronization. We are focusing on making the software really user-friendly, because we believe that the projects can be kept up to date only if the users are really using the technology or the products, the tools regularly, so they keep the schedules updated. They reflect the reality in a system. And last but not least, we see that very often let's say there are teams which follow the traditional concepts of the timeline based planning, such as the system engineering team or hardware teams. And then you may have the teams which are probably more connected towards the software development, which embrace some of the agile principles. So our solution also aim to provide, let's say, capabilities for such a hybrid project management methodologies. We'll speak today about three products by Nextedy: GANTT, Nextedy Planning Board, and Nextedy Scheduler. And as I already said, it sits 100% on Polarion, so everything what I will be presenting live will be on our Polarion demo server. And as we now let's see, dive deeper into the project management, let me just start with something really which is necessary and which will, let's see, which you will see how it impacts both the traditional and also iterative or agile based planning, and that's the way how you can actually define who is working where, when, and with what capacity. So how you can actually perform an accurate team planning, which will later help you to, let's say, understand how much capacity is available in many of these other subsequent use cases. So for that, let me go first into Polarion, and I'll just start speaking about the, let's say, the structure that I'm supposed to present today. So we are in Polarion. It's our Polarion demo environment. By the way, everything what I'm showing today, you will get the credentials at the end of today's webinar, so you'll be able to see the same reports, the same capabilities by yourself. In this case, it's a Polarion project where we manage multiple different disciplines, system requirements, test cases, software requirements, and also the work breakdown structure, where the work breakdown structure is quite easy, which is work package and task. But as I said, let's start with the first use case, which is management of the teams. So the out of the box, I mean, there is no real support of a team inside of the Polarion interface. So the first challenge for us was really to understand what is necessary to cover the team management enough, so later we can provide the right predictions and automations. How we solve it, that we introduce a concept of a team, which is specific to a particular project in Polarion. And in a team, you have a so-called team assignments. So you know exactly who is working in a given team, but not only who, but when. And not only when, but also with what percentual allocation. So we see here that John requirement is working 50% in a team alpha and also 70% in team beta. I can have such a view across of my organization and see how the people are, let's say, assigned to a different projects across multiple even projects. And we can immediately also see, I mean, whether the people are not over assigned to multiple teams. As we see here is that John is working 50% here, 70% there. This results in a 120% allocation over, let's say, all that timeline, which is simply wrong. So what we can do, we can definitely reduce it. So we say, hey, this will be only reduced to 50% here, and suddenly the issue is gone. We can save it. So this is really pretty important asset, that we have a notion of a team. Team has assignments. We can see who is working when, and this will now help us to better understand whether the projects are realistic to be delivered in time or not. But in addition to that, let me also mention a few other, let's say, concepts that we introduce. So the first, the team is a work item, because work item is a first-class citizen in Polarion, which we can use to store any data. So, for example, we can also, let's say, in addition to assign people to the teams, to have additional properties. That, for example, there is a buffer, 25% on outstanding activities. So if someone is working full-time, 8 hours a day, it means that it's only that one quarter, so 25%, are spent on activities which are not tracked in Polarion. And then there can be additional buffer, which could be called something like buffer for unclearness, for anything which is planned in the future. And because it's planned in the future, maybe you are not fully clear how to do it. There is additional 10% buffer, which what the future means is configurable. Whether this means 1 month in the future, 2 months, or 14 days, that's configurable via the configuration properties. So on the level of the team, we know who is working with what capacity, and we also apply the notion of the buffers. So that was, let's say, the first part of the live demonstration for the team management, which now set the stage for the traditional project planning with Nextedy Gantt. And for many projects, especially in the, let's say, enterprise environment, such time-based planning is really essential. You need to understand who is responsible for each task, how the tasks interrelate, how they depend to each other, and also how they are aligned with the project milestones. So let me go back now to Polarion and focus on this traditional conservative time-based method and how we can handle it in Polarion. So I already told you that in this particular demo project, and everything what I'm presenting is just based on this sample configuration, but please keep in mind that all the views and all the, let's say, Gantt charts and planning boards can be adjusted to your terminology, to your project management approach. What we present is just one sample that we have already replicated for many customers, but we also have an option for high flexibility. So in this case, the work breakdown structure is quite simple, that we start with the work package, where the work package is actually connected with the system requirements. This could be one-to-many relationships. So one work package can, let's say, implement multiple system or software design requirements. In addition to that, the work package is broken down into the subtasks, which are later assigned to individual engineers. On the level of the work package, we already see that the work package is assigned to a given team. So let's say assignee is just an owner responsible for a given work package, but it's not a person that works on all of that, let's say, capabilities. Let's say this can be done by several engineers, system, software, hardware, and this is really important once we'll be measuring the actual effort, because what is then important is that the given work package is assigned for a particular team. The second important, let's say, aspect here is that there is a notion of the release, where the release, let's say in this case, there is a document with standard milestones and releases, and this is typically common for a given project, and how you may work is that you assign also a given work package to be delivered latest in the scope of specific target release. So the first thing is that, of course, I may, let's say, see the different releases and how, let's say, what is supposed to be done there. I can build in Polarion many reports that nicely measures, let's see, the progress of the given release. But what we do on top of that is that we can actually present a release timeline, or let's say team timeline. So in this particular case, it's the first time you really see the Gantt interface connected to the work breakdown structure. So we see the traditional work packages and tasks here on the left side, and on the right side there is a report that visualizes the timeline, how the team will be working on top of the activities. You can have the view, let's say, parameterized by a different team. So we are here showing just, let's say, the schedule for the team alpha. We see, let's say, that there are also some dependencies between activities. So for example, if we, let's say, dive deeper into this one, we can say, okay, this particular work package is being blocked by another one which comes later. So if we expand it, we see that let's see, there are dependencies across of multiple work packages. There can be dependencies between tasks as well. So what I can do is I can not only use this as a report, but it's also fully interactive interface. Let me show you what I mean by that. So if you go here into here we have a simple work package has an unfinished task, I can just drag it on a timeline, and the system automatically, let's say, will set the start date and end date as a custom fields of this particular activity. I can actually compare it with any particular baseline. I can see that there is a notion of dependency. So if I, let's say, select a particular item, I see that this one has that particular item as prerequisite, and because of that, I see it highlighted. So what I should probably do, I should say that this one can be implemented only after that particular topic, but then this one shall also be, let's say, planned later. Here on the top, we can visualize the additional milestones like the program increments, but I will speak about it later today. What is now more important is that we see that we can use this view to show a timeline of a specific project plan, filtered, for example, by release or by team. And here on the bottom, I see how are the team members actually, let's say, loaded or overloaded with specific activities. And let me see here, Robert, the project. So I filter for everything that Robert is working on. I'll get this task and I'll move it here to the left because here is where we have the data prepared. And we see here that first, Robert is over allocated. He's supposed to work 11 hours a day. That's of course something which is not achievable, but even we see that with 7.7 hours a day, he is still over allocated. He's actually over allocated by 4.7 hours because his resource capacity is 3 hours. Where do we have this data? Where do we load it from? You remember, we have our team assignments where we define that Robert, the project, is working 50% in the context of Team Alpha. 50% is 4 hours. But remember, there is also a buffer, 25%, which is for outstanding work, which is 25% of 4 hours is 1 hour. That's how we get to this total resource capacity 3 hours a day, which if I zoom out, I have nicely also aggregated per month. So we see here that overall Robert's capacity per month is 108 hours, but the resource capacity is only 45 hours a month. If you will actually zoom in the future, because I told you about this specific buffer that applies for things in the future being unclear, you would see that the total resource capacity is 2.6 hours, which is this 10% less because these assignments are in the future, where because they're in the future, there is a likelihood that something will step in. Maybe there will be additional sick day, maybe, I mean, the items were not properly estimated, so that's why the additional buffer is applied. We are seeing that such a Gantt is a useful representation to manage the lower, or let's say downstream level assignments, where we really speak about assigning tasks to individual engineers. But of course, I can apply the same view on a higher level. Here, we see the view where we see the release timeline. So when are the actual releases being scheduled? Releases are being actually categorized by different disciplines. And what we can also see is that the releases may have the, let's say, the additional work items below, which is the work breakdown structure. We already know that a given work package is being assigned to a release via this target release custom field. So we can have a view where we see a different structure, but still connected to the same data in Polarion. And here on the bottom, instead of seeing how the people are being, let's say, utilized or overutilized, we see the actual teams. Again, with calculating what is the team capacity available, allocated, and what is the actual capacity based on the people being assigned over the given timeline. Again, we also see the dependencies across multiple teams. So if I see here, deadline is highlighted. If I actually zoom in here, we see that that particular work package is depending on this particular work package, which is the, let's say, break in the dependencies, and which will probably result into not delivering this in time. So to properly fix it, I should probably move it. Of course, we can probably, let's say, trigger on the auto scheduling of dependencies. So when I schedule this one is automatically postponed. But here we see that due to that, maybe the team alpha is overloaded because of too many assignments. So you see that we can get a lot of information from the specific views, because we can really see that by just moving this, I mean, there was a conflict with additional features, which results into being likely in risk of delivering a specific feature in time. Now, as I said, there are different project management methodologies. There is a traditional timeline-based planning, but we see more and more often, especially in the software industry, that the customers apply the notion of the iterative development or iterative planning, which is very often connected with the agile project management. And we are giving the visibility into the timeline, which is now being represented by the iterations. We would still need to present how the teams contribute to the timeline, if there are any dependencies across the work packages, even if the people work in the context of the iterational scheduling and not just on the timeline. So let me go back into Polarion and present our solution for the iterative project management. So we go back into Polarion, and just before we actually start speaking about the planning board, it is important to just understand what's the data structure behind it. So in Polarion, the iterative development is being supported by the entity called a plan. So the plan is a Polarion entity. The plan can have a different template. So you can have a program increment, team program increment, iteration. It has a start date and end date. It also has the scope of work. So what to be done, the set of work items that should be delivered within a timeline. The plans are hierarchical. So the given program increment, in this case, program increment 1 for team gamma, is decomposed into subsequent iterations, which again, iterations may have the assignment. So we can see that in the context of this program increment 1, iteration 1, the tasks are supposed to be developed. And what we already see is that we have already connected a concept of a team with the concept of the plan. For that, it's very common that you need to set up such a plan structure easily in Polarion. We provide a solution for it. So technically, I mean, the very common best practice is that you have a program increments, which are, let's say, several iterations long, in this case, four iterations. Each iteration is 2 weeks long. And we create a plan for each team. So you have a program increment 1 in this given time range, but then we create a team program increment for team gamma, beta, and alpha. And for each program increment 1 and the team, we create a sub iteration, which will later help us to really properly plan the assets into the given iterations. So it's not just iteration 1, it's iteration 1 team gamma in the context of the program increment. With our tools, we can also just add another program increment. So we want just to add one additional program increment. Oops, not -1, 1. number of iterations actually. 4, we want to create just one program increment with 4 iterations, 2-week long for all 3 teams. We are just clicking one button and we have created the program increment 6 with the given structure. This is really essential to standardize the project structure so you can later provide some automation on top of that, or also to apply the same schedule over different teams. Why is that important? Because then we can really see that on a release timeline, not on the plans Gantt, that we have the same schedule. So the iteration 1 for team gamma has the same schedule as for team beta, team alpha. So the integration effort can be scheduled for the same date, and you can rely on the same, let's say, milestone dates when we speak about dependencies later. On top of that data, I already told you that the plan is a container for the work item. So what should be done in a given time range? For that, we have 2 additional views. The so-called program board, which now shows us, again, the teams and the program increments. We see actually the dependencies. We see the same dependency that was there before on the Gantt chart, that this particular item actually depends on this one. So maybe what will happen is that, let's say, this cannot be started if this one is actually delivered too late. It's not just a report, it's a highly interactive tool. So you can just take a card and plan it for a specific program increment and a given team. So just this drag and drop operation, if we take this particular one and we put it here, we see that this one has been automatically scheduled to the program increment 2 team alpha. What it means is that if we take it and we put it here, the 47 now is now program increment 2 team beta. So we see that this interface is very useful for the program planning sessions, where you may have all the different, let's say, teams sitting together, or you can select which teams you want to plan. I want to plan only team alpha and team beta. And in this case, let's say I have the view filtered by the specific teams. I see their dependencies. I can schedule who will do what. And also, I understand what is the capacity of a team. In an agile world, the capacity is often being managed by the story points. In this hybrid environments, we often see that that the people are still using the hours or days, just because later they would need to have a combined view where they get data from the traditional plans and from the iteration plans, and they want to, let's say, compare apple to apples. So in this case, if you really need to have the iterative planning, not with story points, but with the real working hours, working days, we may apply and measure the same the capacity the same way on the Gantt. So we understand that this program increment takes these 8 weeks, and we know who is working in Team Alpha, so we also know what is the capacity of the team for this program increment. And the same now applies for the lower level, that we take a specific team, we want to plan the iterations of Team Alpha for program increment 2, understanding maybe also what were the sprints in the, or iterations in the program increment 1. So we see not now the cross team view, but we see the actual engineers working in a Team Alpha. We see the iterations from the program increment 1 and also from the program increment 2 as we selected it, and we can again just schedule the activity. So we can take a specific task and just schedule it to a particular team member. I already told you that everything what we do is extremely flexible. For people that are technical on this webinar, let me just highlight that, let's say, the tool itself is being shipped as a widget. So it is extremely adjustable and configurable. So if I want to have a board which doesn't use assignees as a swim lanes, but you want to categorize that by a work package. Then we just apply it, and we have, with few clicks, a different view where we see how tasks are being, let's say, grouped into the work packages and have a very different visualization. Of course, you can have multiple boards connected to the same data, one that shows how the assets are being grouped by an assignee, or others that shows how the let's say tasks are being grouped by the parent work package. Again, understanding what's the resource capacity, so we know on the team level how much capacity is there per team. Or if you go back and we use as a swim lane the assignments, we of course can also understand what's the user capacity per the 2 weeks. So here the user capacity is 23, calculated again based on the team assignments. All the data are again being stored in Polarion. So we see that the fact that it appears in this specific column, it's because the work item is being planned for this program increment 1, iteration 2, team alpha. When we open the given iteration, we see that there are tasks planned for that given iteration. The people can actually estimate it, track work records, manage the workflows, and execute on it through the standard Polarion interface. Now, let's speak about how you can actually combine the traditional and agile workflows. This is really important because this gives you the flexibility, and also it ensures that you understand these dependencies across of the projects that are managed in a traditional way and iterative way. Give me again a minute to go into the Polarion interface. I will clean up my browser a bit, and we go here back into the release timeline. We expand it a bit, and we now start, let's say, thinking about what are the data here. So if you check this particular work item, this particular work package, let me check the actual data in Polarion. We see that it doesn't have any start date and end date, but it is on a timeline visualized here from the 4th of November till 29th. Why is it so? It's so because this particular item, as we said, is being connected to this program increment. If you open this program increment, we see that this one is from 4th of November till 29th of December. This is exactly the timeline that we see here. So if this particular work package is planned through the iterative methodology, I don't need to specify the start and end date. It derives the end date automatically from the assignment to a given program increment. If I will be working on a task level, it will derive the schedule from the assignment to the iteration. But as a project manager, I can still say, yeah, the team has assigned it to this given program increment, but they'll be actually working only the first 3 months over this particular work package, which may now mean that the team alpha will be overloaded here. But if we save this, we see that the actual start and end date has been defined or set by using this GANTT interface. So what we are showing here is that the GANTT views, the timeline views, are by default connected with the custom fields that actually, let's say, defines when is the start date and end date for the given activity, which results into the estimate being spreaded over that particular time period. But if you don't specify the start and end date, the system can automatically derive it from assignments to the iterations or program increments. This is highly important to just understand that you can use the tools by their own. So we have customers who are using just Gantt if they use the traditional time-based method, or planning board if they are just following the agile methodology and they have only iterative approach. And for the combine processes, you can actually define the views so the data are being loaded from the assignments to the iterative development assets. In the invitation for this webinar, we also promised that we will highlight one additional product called Nextedy Scheduler. It's a condensed resource scheduling application, which is really important to simplify the, let's see, the oversight compared to traditional Gantt charts. And a typical use case for that is, for example, a test scheduling, especially when you really need to have more condensed interface but still be able to understand the resource availability. If you go here into Polarion back, we have prepared here a page called test scheduling, which shows our third product that we are demonstrating today, again running 100% on top of the Polarion interface, connected to the Polarion data. In this case, we have connected to the test cases, software test cases, and unit test cases, which people may be executing manually, not unit test cases, traditional software test cases here, manually over a timeline. So again, it's a highly interactive view, so I can just take a test case, assign it to the individual, and say that this one, the people will be, or Alex will be working on multiple days because it's very complex. He will be just waiting many hours for the product to cool down. So even if it takes 1 day, this 1 day will be spread it over actually 2 weeks. I immediately see that Alex is maybe overloaded here on the 13th of November. I can again also present the, let's see, dependencies if there are any, and let's say have the view which actually summarize how are the resources again over allocated or under allocated. What should I do? Possibly I should take a specific test and reassign it to someone else and make sure that now Alex can spend the time fully working on this specific work item. So the Nextedy Scheduler and Nextedy Gantt are traditional time-based scheduling tools, with the primary difference that a Gantt has a great way of presenting the work breakdown structures, but as a result, there is just one item per line, which results into relatively sparse metrics. Contrary, the Nextedy Scheduler is a condensed view where I can see the same data, but I don't see the work breakdown structure because everything is condensed to a single, let's say, swim lane. So what we have presented today are the capabilities how to perform a project management in Polarion based on traditional or iterative methodologies. And now how we work with you, potential clients of us. We have introduced you today, let's see, the key concepts. We would like to hear your requirements. Based on your requirements, we are able very shortly to provide a POC environment on our test server, which we can iterate over. You provide us the feedback. Once you are fine with this POC environment on our server, we can help you to actually migrate it to your Polarion environment. And only then, let's say, you can make a purchasing decision and go forward. But all what I want to make sure that you understand, no matter how you call your work breakdown structures, is it epics and stories, is it task package and feature, we don't really care. We also allow you to have more than just 2 levels. If you have 4-level work breakdown structure, it's just easy to be configured. We'll hear your requirements, we build it free of charge, and you can make a cautious decision.